Hello and welcome to Novito Video. I'm Carson.
And I'm Catherine. And welcome to Novito Video as we talk about Miss Hokusai, 2015 anime film directed by Kei Chihara, starring Yutaka Matsuhige and Anne Watanabe.
Miss Hokusai explores the interactions between a number of artists during the Edo period in a small, not small community, but small subgroup within their wider community.
This movie was for me a kind of confluence of things that I'm interested in. I'm interested in painting, and I'm interested in the lives of artists. I'm interested in anime film. I'm also especially interested in anime film when it comes this way, and we're excited when something gets picked up by Netflix to be shown in the States. And so I was eager to see this film when it came out, and so wanted to show that to Carson.
You also seem interested in the Edo period,
which, to be fair, spans a wide chunk of time for the period of time that is this.
Yeah.
Things sort of remained unchanged in Tokyo for a long time, or what would become Tokyo. So
I had some issues following the plot at times. I kept confusing two of the characters because their art was similar. The pictures of the characters themselves, not the art they were drawing. So that led to a bit of confusion. There were a couple of places where I just was having trouble even figuring out what was really going on. I understood literally what they were doing, but not necessarily what they were getting at. I don't think it's a cultural difference, given the number of anime movies, TV shows, and live-action Japanese programs I've seen. I think it was just a difference in storytelling than what I'm used to, maybe.
I think framing this conversation in terms of how do we feel about the approaches to storytelling that this film used is a really fair one. Spoiler alert, for me, this film was not entirely successful, in part because of the choices around storytelling. So, even though this was my pick, I don't know that I'm recommending this film. I would have recommended this if it were a series. You know, the episodic nature of the vignettes in the film felt compressed so that they'd fit into a movie-length runtime that if had been given, 10 episodes or 12 episodes, prestige anime sometimes only runs for 10 episodes or so. Give this 10 episodes, let each vignette be explored, let the plot, such as it is of the movie, be the overarching plot of the series. Yeah, this I would have wholeheartedly recommended this. I think for me, what sort of hammered home the fact that I was ultimately quite disappointed in the way that it tells the story is that it begins and ends with a voiceover, which I don't mind. I'm not as anti-voiceover as some people are, but for me, especially the amount of material that's crammed into the closing monologue, boy, they definitely fell short of the, show don't tell.
Oh, and you raise a good point about it being compressed. I think part of my confusion over getting two of the characters mixed up, for instance, a lot of characters who were actually pretty important didn't get as much screen time as they really deserved. So you lose track of them and what they're doing, and someone else who looks a bit similar comes on, and you haven't seen either of them for a while in any of the scenes. You go, wait, who is this guy again? Oh, it's the... No, wait, no, this is the other guy.
And I think one of my other question marks around this film is, did it want to be a story about work, or did it want to be a story about family. And
Mm.
I mean, and maybe the confusion we're feeling is a reflection of the confusion that the character herself was feeling. That there is this sense of, am I going to ever measure up to the master that is my dad? And so, even the title, so she painted under the name Oe, and her father is Hokusai. That was his nom de brush. I can't think of the name right now. But anyway, and he's the guy who painted, think about that very famous painting of the wave, with the little boat and the big, tsunami thing coming in. And so he's one of, even in the West, as you think about Japanese painting, he's who you think of.
Mm-hmm.
And her art has largely been forgotten to history. It's still around, and a lot of her sort of more erotic art, the advertisement art that she made for geisha and those sorts of people, that still remains and is sought after by lots of collectors. But he definitely casts the long shadow.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Bringing up the art, there were a lot of critiques in the movie on the art styles and techniques and even talent levels of the various actual historical figures. And I thought that was interesting. So you kind of learn about what flaws each of the artists may have had, what they could have done better, what they excelled at, and how this artist could have helped that other artist with what they were struggling with and vice versa.
I mean, I hear that, but I also think that for me, it's not so much about historically telling us how painters were, but a conversation about what is art, what makes somebody an artist and what makes somebody a hack. What makes somebody a copyist and what makes somebody who's really engaging in the world in a different way. And in this film, they symbolically talk about the way in which Hokusai and Oe both can see the world differently than the normal person. And the normal person just is going to miss the depth of observation.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of those more fantastical sequences are symbolic in nature.
And there were a lot of fantastical sequences, at least starting around the, halfway point in the movie?
Yeah.
Maybe a little before.
But that's where it really begins to dig into the idea of, what is the work of being a painter. And it's not just selling paintings. It's very clear that Hokusai, anyway, the father figure, has this idea of what selling or what art is about. They're constantly broke, so maybe they could care a little bit more about selling paintings. But yeah, I think even from the first sequence, there's something fantastical in the.
Another thing that I thought was interesting: the first half of the movie was very focused on the art and the process of it, but the second half was much more focused on relationships. So that's another way where this felt kind of episodic and maybe should have been broken up so that each episode, for lack of a better word, was focused on more of a different aspect of the overall whole.
Well, and they even take this arc of, is Miss Hokusai, on this arc of being a sexual being, going from no to, all of the different nuances. But then I also feel like not knowing what to do with that, they just sort of
left it,
and I don't know. That was disappointing.
Yeah, there were a number of things that felt not open-ended, because open-ended would be, well, you can just infer whatever you want, but they just dropped it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why'd you bring it up if you weren't going to expand on this?
Right. Yes, definitely. And as Carson said, characters and situations definitely just... What was that? Oh, gosh. Like, at one point it's like, oh, okay, we're going to talk about this bizarro familial relationship between Hokusai and the woman who was the mother of his children. They're not living together, but they clearly are still, affectionate for one another,
but never actually see each other at all.
And it goes like that.
Yeah.
And then that's done. And
I mean, the most interaction they have is when the mom, who we don't even meet for most of the movie, tells Oi to say hi to her dad. Another character that we don't really see a lot of is the younger sister, who just appears. I didn't necessarily think that Oi was an only child, but that all of her siblings maybe were around her age or older and had already moved on, went somewhere to make their own lives.
She's introduced as an idea, and she has an affliction that makes her a challenging daughter for a painter to have.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think there's something about that gets broken slowly across the action of the film. I feel like she actually got as much screen time as that character. But I think that character is intentionally left kind of flat. Because the film is not interested in her as a full-fledged person, but in sort of how her presence or lack thereof sends other characters sort of bouncing off one another.
With that in mind, though, I think they still developed that character probably better than some of the others. We see the character grow a bit and become interested in things that they weren't originally.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it makes it clear that even with all of the challenges that she has that special something that Hokusai and Oye have. You may notice that Carson and I are pronouncing this name differently every time we say it. That's because it's all vowels, and for me at least that presents a challenge. O-A-E. Anyway.
I've been trying to consistently pronounce it Oe. But
so
neither of us obviously are native Japanese speakers, so
we are falling short, and we just want to share that with you. Not that we don't understand, but that we are simply failing.
Although we may have gotten it right once, as you point out, that we've pronounced it a number of ways.
Right. So who knows? There is this. He's a student of Hokusai, who is a painter, who gets the shortest shrift. And it again might be on purpose because he may just be sort of a plot device for her. It's not even somebody that she expects to ever have a deep relationship with, but I enjoyed every single second that he was on the screen. I missed him when he was gone. I was happy when I saw him come back, and then I was really disappointed that they dropped that plot line altogether. And for me, that was one of the big disappointments of this film. What are some things that I liked? I've been complaining an awful lot. I like the art.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy the way in which they animated the act of painting, of the creative process, which can sometimes just look like somebody sitting at a desk. I appreciated the sound design. It doesn't sound like an Ito film. It's not Kurosawa. It's not, it has a sort of more modern drive to the sound, especially the score. And what else did I like? don't know. Good stuff.
I appreciated
Sight and sound. It's hard to pick anything more than that for a film.
I appreciated the storyline of the younger sister. I thought that was one of the best things in the movie. I wish they'd developed it more. As you said, there's not really much more they could have done with it. I'd like to have known a little more of the backstory maybe, but you can infer what went on. So that's not that big. Speaking of backstory, I would have liked to have known more about what was going on with the parents, but not really pertinent to the overall plot of the movie. I see why they didn't do that. As you said, the art was fantastic, even though some of the characters looked a little bit similar to me.
Okay.
The scenery, just the number of places that they went and how they drew them, felt like it really captured the spirit of the town.
Mm-hmm. And I think if you've watched other things set in this time period, you'll go like, oh, I recognize that, and oh, I recognize, and I understand. Yeah. Like, there's I can't say authenticity. I don't know, but there is this falls very much in line with art set in this same time that I will, for sake of shortness, call authenticity. That really makes this feel like a place that could be lived in. There's a sequence with a fire, which were very common in a town built of wood and paper. And the way in which the town and the firefighters and the fire all kind of act together in this ecosystem felt like, okay, that's exactly how it went down. Like, that's how it used to happen. Mm-hmm. And I think there's always a danger in trying to learn your history from popular fiction and popular works of art. But I think engaging in popular works of art can enrich the study that you're doing of history. And I think for people who are students of this era, this is a fine piece of media to check in on. Final thoughts?
Well, as I said, I wish they'd developed some of the storylines a little more, but I'm not sure it was strictly necessary for the plot. I honestly would have just preferred watching an entire movie about the life of the younger sister.
Okay. For me, just thinking about the very first painting that we see completed, and just we see it kind of completed twice, and how lovely that sequence is. That sequence alone makes the whole film worthwhile, even though I've been kind of hard on it. It's a beautiful sequence.
Yes. Another thing that I didn't mention earlier, the movie really does capture emotion well. The frustration when a painting isn't going right, or when someone's just having trouble capturing what they're trying to express. You definitely see a lot of familial love in the movie as well.
Even awkward love,
yeah.
which I think is, definitely the way to think about it.
So it really captures emotion well, even if it misses on some other marks.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have anything to add to our conversation, or want to point out how we're mispronouncing names, please comment down below, or go to novitovideo.com. You can comment there as well.
So now is the time on Novito Video when we talk about a movie to watch in conjunction with or to replace this film. We call it our Vito Overrides. So Carson, what's your override this week?
My override is from Up on Poppy Hill, a Studio Ghibli movie that I think deals with some of the same familial relationship issues and longing for ties to the family that I saw in the younger sister's storyline. I don't want to give too much away about either that subplot of this movie or anything from Up on Puppy Hill, but there's some definite similarities there.
Okay, and mine is actually not an animated film, but my recommendation this week is In a World. In a World talks about the work of voiceover actors, voiceover performers, and really kind of highlights for me the challenge of being in the same field as your father, who is considered one of the best. And the competition but also respect side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So check out Miss Hokusai, check out Up on Poppy Hill, definitely do that, and check out In a World.
Next time on No Veto Video, we're going to be examining the 2016 movie Ghost Team.
It's available on Google Play, among other places that it might be available, but my sense is that it's probably on Google Play, because I think it's like from a Google studio or Google distribution.
Well, and that's where we watched it.
Right, so thank you guys so much for being with us. Welcome to the new year. We're gonna be back again next week with Ghost Team, and subscribe so that you get an update about when we put out a new video.
Until next time, goodbye.
Bye!